Hey guys, thank you for joining me for this video. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. On one of my other videos, someone just suggested a 31 random facts about me video, and I thought that might be kind of fun to do, so I wrote down 31 random facts, and I'm just gonna tap and scratch on this microphone while I read these. Well, read and probably add stories because that's just the way I am. Random facts about me. So, let's get started. The first one is, I think I lived in a haunted house. I think I've told stories about this before, probably during another Halloween video, maybe last year, I'm not sure. We had a lot of weird things happen in that house, but the one that stands out the most to me is the necklace. I call that, the necklace story. I had this necklace that had a coin on the end of it that I think is supposed to be like an explorer or some dude's head on there. Anyway. I was twirling this necklace around on my finger, and it flew across the room over by a cabinet or something in the corner. And it was me and my mom. We searched for it and couldn't find it anywhere. And we were getting ready to play cards, so we sat down at the table we had in my room. It was a card table, and we were playing a game of Crazy Eights. And we were discarding cards on the table. We've been doing it for a while. This wasn't the first hand. We played a couple of hands. We're in like our third hand of cards. And I go to discard one. I look down and that necklace is laying on the discard pile. Literally on top of the discard pile. That freaked us both out. We were done playing cards for the day and we went downstairs, but yeah, because my bedroom was upstairs. We went downstairs and we're like, no, enough for today. We had weird things like stuff moving around, hearing weird noises, that kind of thing, you know. It was an old house, so some of the noises are probably explained because it was an old house, but like chairs moving in the kitchen and things like that. Anyway, we thought the house was haunted, so I thought that was a cool random fact. I think I might have lived in a haunted house. I thought about becoming a ghost hunter once. I still think about it sometimes. I used to have ferrets for pets, number 2. I ended up with ferrets because my boyfriend at the time got a ferret. Then I bought another ferret for a friend for her, and then I took the ferrets when we broke up. There's a story on that, but I've had 13 ferrets in total through the years. And the first ferret was Karma, then Cosmo, Smokey, Rocky, Yin Yang, Rosie. I didn't name those, they came out with those names. Comet, Lucky, Lacey, Oscar, and Ozzy. I don't know if I missed one in there. Karma was the first one I had. Then I bought Cosmo to be her friend. And then when she passed away, I got Smokey to be Cosmo's friend. And then Yin, Yang, and Rosie were pretty much rescue ferrets because my friend, her husband's friend at work, was wanting to give away these ferrets, and they weren't in good shape when I found them. They asked me if I wanted to take them. I went and saw them, and yeah, I had to take them home. They were the sweetest little things. Rosie and Yin didn't last very long. They were super tiny, but Yang was around for a while. Rocky came after the girls were gone because I didn't want the boys to be sad. I kept getting more ferrets because you don't want the other ferrets to get sad. Then went to the pet store because we wanted to get another ferret, and we ended up with two, Lucky and Comet. That was when I lived in my other house before I moved here. And then we were down to just Rocky and Lucky, so I got Lacey and Ozzy. So I had 4 ferrets when we moved in here. Then Rocky had a tumor that they couldn't do anything with, so I got Oscar, so Lucky would not be lonely because Ozzy and Lacey came together, and I had to put both of them in the cage sometimes at night because they would bite me or stuff, or scratch up my legs. Just Lacey could be mean when she wanted to be. She was a sweetheart most of the time, but she could be mean, so I didn't want to put them in the cage at night and leave Lucky out by himself, but Lucky's never been in the cage, so I wasn't going to lock him in there either, so I got Oscar. And they were all with me until they passed on. I didn't get any more animals after that. I can't do that again. So my mom had some guinea pigs too, and I also had a hamster, and I don't want to lose another pet, so. And now my allergies have gotten really bad, so I'm not sure if I could even have a pet anymore, but. Okay, anyway, the next one. I spent a summer cleaning in a dairy barn. I spent one summer scraping crap out of the stalls in the dairy barn. We were renting at a farmhouse, and my neighbor, who was also a friend, she was cleaning the barn, and I don't even remember how I ended up helping too, but it was kind of fun almost. I know cleaning up crap just doesn't sound like fun, but there wasn't a lot to do when you lived out in the country when you were young, before I was old enough to drive, so there wasn't a lot to do. But it was more like spending a summer hanging out with her and hanging out with the people who own the farm, so, and they were nice people, really nice people, so. Number 4, I went to college the first time. I didn't finish, but that's beside the point, right? I studied Greek mythology. I've always been really interested in Greek mythology. I took Greek mythology, archaeology, and world religions. At one point, I even thought about being an archaeologist, but I figured with my asthma and stuff, that probably wouldn't be a good idea for a job. But I still love mythology, Greek mythology. I like reading about other religions and studying other religions and all religions. I also took a New Testament class in college too, just because I thought it was interesting. Number 5 here, that leads into number 5. I got ordained by 2 different online churches. When I first discovered it, Universal Life Church, I got ordained there. I've even done some studying of some of the materials and stuff. I just find it interesting, and then I could officiate weddings or funerals or that if I wanted to. I also got ordained at the Church of the Latter-day Dude. I'm a Dudist priest. I just thought it was kind of neat, but it's based on the Big Lebowski. And the big thing with Dudism is just abide, kind of like just let it go, relax. Don't let anything bother you. I just love the idea of it. And the fact that dude was like my favorite word when I was a teenager. Like, dude this, dude that. Me and my one friend were always like, dude. So, at first I thought it was kind of funny, but then the more I studied it and read into it, I think it'd be cool to have like a little Dudist ministry. It kind of ties ties in with this helping people relax thing, right? I have an associate's degree, Associates of Applied Science, with an emphasis on massage therapy, to which I then got my massage license. So I am a licensed massage therapist. I haven't been practicing that for many years, but I kept my license just in case. Along that line, I am also a Reiki master, be number 7. I've been doing that longer than massage. That's actually why I wanted to get into massage to begin with, was to do Reiki. I went through 3 levels of Reiki. You got level 1, level 2, and master, to where I can also attune people to Reiki and teach it. I do send Reiki long distance on Fiverr. It's a fun gig and it takes me like 5 minutes to do. And I've actually been pretty good at it. It's actually been a pretty good experience. I wasn't sure how. I was skeptical myself on how Reiki works, especially sending it long distance, but I've had good reviews and good feedback, so I kept doing it. I've also taken life coaching classes, many life coaching classes. I'm still not coaching, but I've taken all the classes. Something I want to start doing, but even after taking all the classes, sometimes I just don't know where to start. Because I've done coaching and meditation and spirituality and wellness. I'm in the middle of an abundance and manifestation coaching class right now, and in a 200-hour yoga training thing. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a musician or a vocalist. I took some piano lessons, voice lessons, and guitar lessons when I was younger. My first round of college, I took some voice lessons for a college credit, which that was wonderful. Now I have some crystal singing bowls and tuning forks. I've been studying those so I can do some sound healing, which kind of makes me the musician I always wanted to be, right? At one point, I almost thought I wanted to be a lawyer too, but that's just because I watched a lawyer movie, I think. No, one of the movies I watched that made me think about being a lawyer was A Time to Kill, with Matthew McConaughey and Samuel Jackson, where Matthew McConaughey is a lawyer defending Samuel Jackson, who killed the men who attacked his young daughter. It's a really good movie, especially if you like, movies about the trials and stuff. But Matthew McConaughey's speech at the very end of the movie, which is his closing argument in the case. Every time that movie's on, if I see that it's getting close to the end, I have to watch that closing argument. I don't know what it is, something about that got me. And I kind of, after that, thought, hey, maybe I could be a lawyer, but I knew that wasn't happening after a while. After I looked into it more and thought about it, I thought, no, I don't think that would work for me, so. I find realistic movies scarier than horror movies. I'm talking, one of the scariest movies I think I've ever seen, I think I've mentioned this before, is Kiss the Girls, with Morgan Freeman and Ashley Judd. And because the guy goes into her house and kidnaps her from her own home in the middle of the night, to me that is one of the scariest things. I think when I first watched that movie, I lived alone. Or I was home alone or something like that, and yeah, that's pretty scary. Being kidnapped and held captive with a bunch of other women and being held as a sex slave, pretty much. I think that stuff is the stuff nightmares are made of, you know what I'm saying? was younger, I can't even remember exactly what it was. But I had nightmares about that damn samurai forever. So I do not watch samurai movies. Not that there are that many of them, but I refuse to watch a samurai movie. One of my least favorite movies is one of a lot of people's favorite movies, Pulp Fiction. I hate Pulp Fiction. It's funny because Pulp Fiction is one of my most hated movies, but Samuel Jackson is one of my favorite actors. So, I just didn't like that one. One of my guilty pleasures is reading dark romance novels. You know, like some of them aren't entirely that dark, but I like dark romance novels, but I also like cutesy little cozy mysteries. Not cutesy, but yeah, it's where cozy mysteries, where they find out there's always a dead body, but it's still supposed to be a cozy mystery. But I like the dark romance books where, you know, the woman gets kidnapped and then falls in love with her kidnapper. Kind of, I don't know why some of those books I just like. Not the part where she gets kidnapped, of course, but when things are like changing between her and the dude or something like that. Or the books with the motorcycle clubs, where they seem like this big bad guy, and then they find a woman that they really love, or they think they fall in love with, or they do, and, you know, craziness unfolds, and then happily ever after. I like those kind of books. Sometimes I like the just basic rom-com, but sometimes I just want to read a darker book. Like TikTok made me read Hunting Adeline, and a lot of people thought that was really too dark, but I actually like the book. Both books, actually. It's some really dark material, and there are a lot of trigger warnings for it that people need to pay attention to, because, yeah. But I still like those books. It was a little different than some of the stuff I've read. Aside from that, I like true crime, of course. I used to watch the ID channel like constantly, Investigation Discovery, and all those ID shows. I stopped watching that as much. For a while there, I was watching nothing but true crime, and then stuff like Criminal Minds and Law and Order, and it was kind of giving me nightmares for a while, I have to admit it, so I had to cut back on that a little. But one of my favorite things to watch is, I said the true crime, but also Law and Order. This past season, when they had Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and then Law and Order Organized Crime, oh, I was in heaven. Every Thursday night is Law and Order night. I have to admit, I haven't even checked to see if that's on again this year. Probably is. If it is, I'll have to start watching that again, because I just love me some Law and Order. And when they brought back original Law and Order this past year, they brought on Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice, and Burn Notice used to be my favorite show. So I was happy to see him on Law & Order, because I think he's a pretty good actor. I like watching him. And sometimes it even reminds me of his character from Burn Notice. But let's see, I've got a list here so I don't forget. Now, I just put these in a random order too, because I was just writing down random stuff. Like you guys probably already know, I collect tarot cards and oracle cards. I even have a set of runes and a set of tarot dice. I think I'm getting some more runes too. I want to kind of collect more stuff. But yeah, I have a collection of tarot and oracle cards. I also have a collection of gems and crystals and stuff too. Not as big ways that I might be kind of a boring person when I look at it. I'm thinking, oh my god, coming up with 31 facts to tell you was kind of hard to do, but I'm sure this isn't super exciting, but I've also never flown on a plane. Not just because of the fear of heights, just because I didn't want to. Isn't that crazy? I don't want to fly anywhere. I've never been on a cruise either or anything like that, so I've never been out of the country, of course, because I've never flown or been on a boat, but I have been out of my home state, but not that far away. I like to take a road trip sometime, like across a few different states or something, I don't know. When I was younger, I had hip dysplasia, which means your hip is not in the socket where it's supposed to be. So I would have times where I had a hard time walking or I'd be in a lot of pain. And there was nothing they could do with it. They gave me some pain medication and kept watch on it every 6 months to a year. I'd have to go to the specialist and have another x-ray and they'd never do anything. I did finally get to stay out of gym class by high school. I know a lot of people like gym class. They're like, why would you not want to be in gym class? Oh, I hated it. And some of the things we did in class bothered my hip. I discovered that if I do exercise on my own, if I do a lot of walking and stuff, it doesn't bother my hip. So I was told I would have to have a hip replacement by the time I was 30. Well, I'm in my 40s now and no hip transplant. Because it grew back into place where it was supposed to be. But I do have some problems because the femur bone that goes up to the hip joint is at a weird angle. So there's only certain things I can do anything. There's just only certain things that bother it. But over the years, I've gotten better. I'm not very flexible in my hip, but I've been doing more yoga lately. I did yoga for a while, then I stopped. I'm back to that, so hopefully that will help. I was probably born with a lazy eye in my left eye, where I could barely see anything. And when they figured it out when I was young, the treatment back then was to tape your glasses on one side, like the right side, where I could see well, to force me to use the left eye, to force it to get better. So, but every year I'd have to get a new prescription on my glasses because they would change. But once I started wearing glasses all the time, it started to improve. It improved so much that, to my great delight, through junior high and high school, I did not have to wear glasses. In junior high, I had a pair for reading that I would take with me to read, but I only had to wear them for reading, and then I didn't have to wear them for a while. And I think it was about 15 years that I did not have to wear glasses at all until they started to go back again, so. But I was grateful that I had several years that I didn't have to wear glasses and that I could wear, sunglasses. I loved sunglasses. Isn't it funny? I didn't want to wear my regular glasses, but I wore sunglasses all the time. I once sprained my thigh muscle. My thigh. My right thigh. It was the quads and the quadricep muscles on the front of the thigh. It was a job I was working where I sprained my thigh. And they figured it was probably because of my hip and that ankle of my femur bone there kind of made it easy. Also, I think it was the IT band on the side of the leg, because that's where a lot of my pain is now. But I don't have a lot of pain, only if I do stuff I shouldn't. I haven't exercised for a while, so I need to get back to that. But the first time I lived on my own, my parents moved out. Instead of me moving out, we were renting a house. My mom, my stepdad, and me were renting a house. They bought a new house, and I didn't want to move. I liked where I was living. So I never really moved out on my own. Well, I did, because then I said that I moved in with them for a few months and then I moved into my own place again. But I always thought that was a funny story that they moved out. I have to turn my piece of paper over here. We're on number 23. I'm a huge fan of duct tape. You know, they show making stuff with duct tape. If I can fix something with duct tape, I'm gonna fix it with duct tape. I have a spot in my, well, the electric box is in my bedroom for some ungodly reason, but when the neighbor's smoke comes in the house, sometimes it comes in through that electric box that's right next to my bed. So I duct taped a plastic tablecloth on the wall to hang over the top of that, and it does block some of that coming in there. But that's just an example of duct tape. I duct taped together some cardboard boxes to put in front of my bedroom door when I had the ferrets, so when I opened the door they couldn't escape into the rest of the house. Which leads into number 24, which is I like to DIY stuff. Like right now, I'm sitting in my sound booth I made myself. You know those cube storage things? They're like plastic and they're like got metal around them. You just snap them together with these little connectors. I made some of those, and then I took some double-sided tape and stuck some sound-proofing foam to it. I couldn't make it as big as I wanted because I have to be able to move it, and when I had it bigger I moved it and it fell apart. So, but it's still a work in progress. But I'm sitting inside here right now anyway. Well, actually I have the microphone and the camera inside there. I'm kind of at the edge. I'm not going to be able to use it every time I make a video though, because if I put the camera back too far you can see the edges, which are purple by the way. I also built the one bookshelf I have in my room. I didn't actually build it. I converted a dresser. My mom had a dresser where the drawers were broken that she was getting rid of. Instead of throwing it out, I repurposed it into a bookshelf. Because I wanted a bookshelf, but I didn't want to spend the money on it. So, free is good. Because all I had to do is take some, I took apart the broken drawers and turned a couple of them into shelves, and it was actually pretty easy, but I had fun doing it. Which goes to now, I found out I enjoy watching DIY videos. I was watching videos on TikTok of people, what do they call it? Recycling. They don't call it upcycling furniture. I think it'd be fun if I had space to do something like that, which I don't really hear, but maybe when I get a new place eventually. I'd like to try refurbishing some furniture or something. I don't know. I just think it might be fun. I might be terrible at it, but I did, DIY my own shelf and sound booth. I put together a cube storage thing for my closet, so then I thought, hey, those cube things would work well for that sound booth I want to build. So and I think I've mentioned this before, but number 26 is I like otters. I love watching otter videos. I got started watching the otter Addie when I saw a video titled Otter Sees a Cow for the First Time, and I thought, why would an otter be seeing a cow? So I watched the video, and of course the guy was out walking with his otter, and they saw a cow, and I saw the adorable faces the otter was making when he was seeing a cow for the first time. It was just wonderful. So I started watching more Addie videos, and then YouTube would advertise other otters, and Addie has a otter best friend that comes to visit him sometimes. And now Addie has a female otter partner too. And the Otter Cafe, and just you watch one otters, then like some of them visit with the other otters, and then they recommend otters to you. Mostly YouTube says here's some more travel videos like overnight ferries and capsule hotels and stuff, I become obsessed. I just really enjoy watching those. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube now because I prefer watching YouTube and streaming services sometimes. I still have my cable subscription because cable and internet come together, so I still watch stuff on cable TV, just not as much. If any of you are new here, you don't know, because I know I've mentioned this. I've read some of it in one of my videos for Halloween. I think it might have been the year before last or something. Anyway, I wrote a novel once. Even sold a few copies of it. It's not very good. I mean, I could be wrong, but I tried editing it. My mom read it over. There's still mistakes in it, I know, but I sold a few copies. It's still on Amazon. I believe I had it under Kindle Unlimited. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that later. But it's 12 Pints of Blood, which is about Kaylin, who is part vampire and part... I can't even remember everything I put in. Oh my god. But anyway, Kaylin is a supernatural creature and she works with the police and she's trying to solve a string of murders while getting reacquainted with her supernatural ex-boyfriend and getting back into the supernatural world. I don't know, I had fun writing it. I'd like to write another one, but I don't know. In my book, I had a coffee shop called Unhallowed Grounds, which I kind of want to write some cozy mysteries centered around unhallowed grounds. Because I notice a lot of cozy mysteries take place around a cafe or something like that. I used to write poems when I was in school. And sometimes after that's been a long time, I want to dig out my old poems and make a book of poetry that I can self-publish if my poems are good enough. I may do a video where I read you some of my poems and see what you think and see if you think I should make a book. And 29, I'm gonna say I'm what you might call an old school gamer. Now, back when I was really young playing video games, they weren't like they are now. But I'm sure I've mentioned this before many, many times. Pac-Man. I love Pac-Man. That was my favorite game. I used to sit for hours and play Pac-Man. I had like 1,000,000 points and extra lives like across the bottom of the screen. I can remember that. But I also had I played Donkey Kong, Pitfall. I think those were Atari games. That's aging me, but Atari was what I played my first games on. And then I did move on to Nintendo. Super Mario was one of my first games on Nintendo. I played a lot of Mario too. Then later on I was into Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. I'm trying to get into playing games again. I got a Luna controller from Amazon where I play Luna games through Amazon. It works well on my Fire TV, but I'm not sure what games to play. They had some older games on there, like I found Centipede and Asteroid, which I was playing because they're old school games, but they also have Fortnite on Luna now, and I want to try that because I know people say that's a pretty good game. So I was thinking of playing games through Luna. I could play games on Twitch and just do like ASMR gaming or something. I know a lot of people do that, but it might be fun. Even just to play some old school games that make good noises or something. Number 30. 40s and I'm in like full-blown menopause, so the only thing I don't like about menopause, well, not the only thing, but I don't mind the hot flashes. I mean, sometimes they get really annoying. It's the not being able to sleep and sometimes having worse mood swings, but all in all, I prefer that. And number 31, I am a chronic procrastinator. If I can put it off until later, I'm going to. I've been working on that really hard, but sometimes I do my best work at the last minute when I have to get it done. So there are 31 random facts about me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If there's anything else you'd like to know, just let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do another video like this later on, but like I said, someone suggested it and I thought, why not? So, thank you for joining me for this video. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe